fix some things on a technology side. If I lose you guys, stay tuned. I'm coming right back, but I'm trying to fix some technical issues that we got going on here. So let me start it. And maybe I should just refresh the screen. Like, this is like ridiculous. So here, this is going to be so weird. There we go. I tell you the truth. Like, I need somebody to do this for me. I am so over technology. But that's okay. We're going to keep going. I don't know what this says. All right, so we're going to keep going. I can't see your comments. If you comment on anything, there we go. This red lipstick is popping, y'all. It looks really good. I'm so into myself. So, whatever. All right. Looks like we're back on. We're good to go. Whatever. Now, getting back to what I was saying. Sorry about all the technical issues. We may have a couple of these, but I'm going to try to get through this because seriously, I got to get this speech out. So, I'm Jay, founder of Jay the Author Publishing. I am responsible for releasing this magnificent, most powerful, look, book that will ever hit the shelf. Um, and so it's called the Fraser Chronicles. It is a story, a compilation of 10 stories, 10 women on one journey, and that journey is emotional healing. And so as I thought about preparing for this moment, this book launch right now, Martin Luther King, Dr. King, came to my mind. His speech, I Have a Dream speech. And so I listened to this speech, and some of the things that he said in his speech inspired me to write my own speech because I too have a dream. And here it goes. Today, I have the honor of releasing for the first time in my family history that spans almost 100 years, a compilation of life stories never told before. Each story is filled with emotion, with strength, endurance, and most of all, faith in God and hope for our future. I can say that telling our story was easy, but that would be a lie. It hasn't been easy writing it, and it certainly has not been easy publishing it. I think I can say for all 10 women, though, that this exact moment makes us nervous as hell. But I'm also aware that this appointed time, how appropriate that we release such powerful testimonies during Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. Yesterday morning, I felt compelled to listen to his famous speech, I Have a Dream. And there were specific phrases that he said over 50 years ago that rings loudly in my spirit today as I release this family anthology. You see, the power of words carry on forever, even after we have long left this earthly realm. Dr. King kept saying in his speech, 100 years. Dr. King, in his speech, said these words: 100 years later, the Negro is still not free. He said, the Negro is still exiled in his own land. He said, we shall always march ahead. He said, I have a dream that one day my children will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. That one was my favorite one. He also said, finally, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Now, I'm not going to get into the politics right now. I'm not even to get into a controversial conversation. Instead, I'm keeping this speech focused on my family, the Frasers, because I too have a dream. The oldest member in our family, to my knowledge, is almost 100 years old. I'm 40 years old. So some of the things I say to you now will come from my own memory bank, and some will come from stories that I've heard from my mother, from my grandmother, and from my great grandmother. But it spans over 100 years. You see, I was genuinely raised by the women in my family. And I learned a thing or two from the men just by their behavior. We'll get into that later. Hell, that may even be another book. 100 years. The women in my family have been physically, verbally, emotionally, and financially abused. The wives were beaten and the children were raped. Not all, but damn near most. It was a generational curse passed down from generation to generation. So embedded in my family that it was a normal way of life for us. So we, the women, adapted to that way of living. Can you imagine? Yet every Friday night, I remember going to my grandmother's house for the fish fry. The adults would be in a dining room, drinking, listening to blues, laughing. The kids would be in the living room playing and joking and kind of sneaking in a dining room and watching the adults. 100 years. Alcoholism, drugs, poverty wreaked havoc in my family. It was a cycle. Drink until you can't feel anymore. But the alcohol produced anger, and the anger produced violence. Some say there's nothing worse than a physical punch or kick, but I say there's nothing worse than a sharp tongue. That emotional scar takes a little longer to heal than the physical one if you're not killed. 100 years. I remember as a kid, my biggest dream was to grow up and marry someone whose last name began with A, so I would be the first in line for food stamps. That was my dream growing up. Now I sit before you with two master's degrees, own my own business, written 5 books, and a co host to a radio show. How did that little country girl go from that to this? 2 words: faith and forgiveness. 100 years of pain and agony, of darkness and brokenness, of poverty and addiction. But the women in my family kept pressing forward. Let's talk about the women that's in this book, The Fraser Chronicles. Starting with the oldest, Martha Harris, who just happens to be my mother. I wrote a story about my mom in one of my books last year. My mother's a praying woman. She endured two extremely abusive marriages that span over 30 years, constantly being put down, beaten, disregarded, disrespected, and demeaned, being told she wasn't ish, that she would never be ish, watching her kids grow up with hatred in their hearts, yet following her same footsteps. Unlike countless others, God spared her life to live another day and to tell her story. Her message that's in this book is tell somebody and get help. Mom, you are my hero. You saved my life when you signed me up to join the Navy. How did I get here? My mother. Her unconditional love for me. Whew, I said I wasn't going to cry. My mother saw something in me that I was too young to see for myself. And for that, my mother, thank you. Next up, Charlene, my cousin, Uncle Pete's daughter. Uncle Pete was my favorite uncle of all time. He was so sweet, kind, and gentle. He was funny. He made all the kids laugh. And when he passed, it hurt me so bad. And I was so young, but I remember that. You, Charlene, are your father's daughter. You're just as sweet and kind and gentle. You doubt yourself. You doubt your ability. You doubt your worth. But I am here to tell you, stop it. You matter. You are powerful beyond measure. You are worthy to have peace and to have joy. You are worthy of God's blessings. Stop letting people in society convince you otherwise. And if they have a problem with you, tell them come see me. Teresa, my oldest sister, if only I can get you to see yourself through my lens. If only I can get you to see yourself through God's lens. How precious you are, how beautiful you are, how special you are, how necessary it is to have you here on this earth. You allow people to abuse you, to take advantage of you, to run all over you, to disrespect you, to discount you, to disregard you. But once you see your value and your self worth, all of that will stop. You will remove those negative a-holes out of your life, and you will be the powerhouse God intended for you to be once you use your voice. I love you, sis. Always have and always will. Katrina, my next oldest sister. People never really understood why we were so close. Yeah, we were close in age, but mostly we were close in connection to the sexual abuse. We shared in those experiences and we learned to lean on one another. Then I left home and I left you behind. I blamed myself for all the trouble that came to you when I left. I should have protected you. In many ways, I failed you. I had to live with that guilt for years until you came to visit me in Maryland. Our relationship was healed. We both needed that. And we both began to blossom ever since. I call you my prophet because God always give you a special word to break spiritual chains in my life and in the lives of those around you. You endured so much abuse over the years, yet you shine brighter than anyone I've ever seen in my life. I am honored to be appointed your sister. Love you, girl. Josie, my baby sister, who's sitting here next to me now. Most people think you're older than me. I had left home when you were young, so we didn't really grow up together. I had to get to know you when you came to stay with me in Maryland with your two boys. We had some rough edges, but I think we learned how to coexist. We are both stubborn. We are both strongly opinionated. We are alike in some ways, but I see the pain inside of you that you're working on. The pain I had inside of me years ago. I am proud to be the one to guide you on this emotional healing journey. You are not alone. We will get to the other side together. Love you. That's her moaning in it. Like, Josie loved going to church. She's just like one of them old church mothers. She say, won't he do it, y'all? Sharika, my babyest of baby sisters. Girl, you had it rough. Being the youngest of all of us, but also being despised on some level by all of us. Your father had a huge role to play in that. He was an a hole to us, and so we became an a hole to you. That wasn't fair, and I'm sorry. I had to learn over the years to separate the good from the bad. You are your father's child, but you are nothing like him. I had to see that after God healed my own heart, so I was able to see it. For all the years that I closed you out, I'm sorry. I pray that God will heal our relationship through this journey we are currently on. From the bottom of my heart, I love you, baby girl. Vanessa and Chanel, I'm wrapping up, y'all. Vanessa, it's 10 of us, so I got to go through it. Vanessa and Chanel, two sisters, and my cousins. We grew up thick as thieves. Trina and I stayed at your home, mostly because your granny made the best fried bologna sandwiches ever. But I look at the women who you are now and I smile. You are both strong, beautiful, faith filled women. You value family, but I want you to value yourself. You put everyone else's needs before your own. Your energy, and that's commendable. That's commendable that you do that. But sometimes you have to take care of yourself too. Your energy and your spirit is well equipped to love yourself and to love everybody else all at the same time. Keep being genuine and loving and kind, and always keep smiling because it's your smile that heals people around you. That's the magic of your smile. Love you like sisters. And finally, last but certainly not least, Angela, my cousin. When you married my cousin Terrence, none of us really knew who you were. We got the scoop from my grandmother because my grandmother tell everything on everybody's business. God rest her soul. But it wasn't until I came to visit you and spent one on one time with you that I got to know your soul. I could hear the pain in your voice and I could see the pain in your eyes from your past. And I could see you fighting to not allow it to spill over into your marriage. For years, you felt like something was wrong with you. You felt like you weren't good enough and you couldn't do anything right and that nothing good was ever going to happen to you. Then, girl, my cousin found you. Yes, that man was raised with high standards by my grandmother. He was protected from the abuse. And now you see just how gentle and loving and kind his heart really is. The two of you together is like some magical love story that should be on a Disney Channel. I love seeing you two together. I am glad to have spent time with you. Thank you for trusting me enough to show me the real you. I can truly say that I love you. Whew. Now, that was one long ass speech, y'all. This journey of publishing this book has been an emotional one. I cried more times than I care to admit. I'm nervous. I'm scared. Scared. I'm just not going to say the word that I wrote on my paper. I'm wondering what will be the outcome, but I'm glad to be on this journey with my family. I know this for sure that my dream of my family being free from the pain of our past is right now in this very moment. We are free at last. After 100 years of suffering, wondering if it will ever end, wondering if we will ever smile again, wondering if the pain will ever subside, finally, we can finally accept our new normal and say that we are free at last. I too had a dream, but now I'm living it. Thank you all for supporting me and my family. Love you to life. Jay.